Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, honestly, a pretty challenging idea about our modern relationship with pain.
So let's just jump right into it with this question. It's a profound idea from the philosopher Byung-chul Han. He basically argues that our never-ending quest to get rid of any and all suffering, well, it might actually be creating a much deeper, more isolating kind of pain. It's a huge paradox, and it gets right to the heart of what it's like to be alive today.
To really get this, we first need to look at the world we've built for ourselves. Han has a name for it. He calls it an analgesic society. Now, an analgesic is just a painkiller, and that's the whole point. We're living in a society that's trying to be one giant collective painkiller.
So the thinking goes that any kind of pain, whether it's physical, psychological, social, it's not something to learn from. No, it's just a bug in the system, a glitch that needs a quick patch, a pill, an anesthetic to just make it disappear. But here's the thing. This approach has a really, really strange effect on us.
And this leads to an incredible contradiction. Han brings up the old fairy tale of the princess and the pea to describe us. We get almost hysterical over the tiniest little annoyance, that one single pea under a mountain of mattresses. We get all anxious about minor things, but at the same time, we've become completely numb when we're faced with huge, profound pain that actually demands our attention.
So what happens then? What happens when an entire society decides it's going to try and erase pain? Well, the biggest casualty is language itself. We literally start to lose the words to even talk about what hurts. Han actually points to a character from a novel, someone who, when they're completely overcome by pain, can no longer form a story. Their suffering is so empty, so devoid of any meaning, that it renders them speechless. Literally, can't speak. And you know what you're left with? This. Just an ellipsis. A punctuation mark that means something has been left out. When we don't have a way to give pain meaning, all we can do is just trail off. The story of what happened, why it happened, and what it means for us, it just disappears into silence.
And without that language, Han says we become what he calls a naked body. We're totally exposed, totally vulnerable. We're stripped of that symbolic coat that stories and shared understanding give us. We just become these isolated biological things, having a physical reaction, instead of human beings taking part in a meaningful story.
Okay, so this isn't just about one person feeling alone and isolated. This whole thing scales up. And when an entire society starts to lose the story of its pain, well, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
You can see this play out during huge national tragedies, like the Sewol ferry disaster or the Itaewon crowd crush in South Korea. Events like these force a society to make a really stark choice. Do we come together to create a collective story of remembrance and actually learn from the pain? Or do we just push for a quick recovery, treat it like some random one-off accident, and just try to forget, ensuring we learn absolutely nothing?
So you've got these two paths, right? Path number one treats the trauma like a meaningless accident. It has no past, no future, no lesson. It's just something to get over fast. But the other path, that one transforms the trauma into a meaningful experience. Yeah, it's a painful story, for sure. But it's a story that becomes a guidepost. It tells us how to build a better, safer, more compassionate world.
So if the problem is a culture of silence that treats pain like it's meaningless, then the solution becomes actually pretty obvious. We need to find our voice. We have to tell stories. And look, this idea of storytelling as a cure, it's not new at all. Other frameworks have known this for centuries. Take psychoanalysis. The entire thing is built on the idea that healing starts the moment a person starts telling their story. Or theology. Think of mystics like Teresa of Avila, who turned unimaginable suffering into a sacred story of divine connection. Both take raw pain and weave it into a narrative that has meaning. And this process, it's something we all know deep down. It starts with a mother soothing her child with words. It's a patient telling their doctor what hurts. Just speaking the pain is the first step. Then sharing that story with someone else, that breaks the isolation.
And finally, that shared story can be transformed into a new collective meaning that helps everyone move on.
Which brings us to the ultimate point of all this storytelling when we're facing suffering. It's not just about you feeling better. It's about building a community of empathy. It's about remembering that ancient wisdom to weep with those who weep.
Just listen to this quote. It's from a parent who lost their child in the Sewol ferry disaster. It's just so powerful. It shows the complete transformation of pain. Think about it. The deepest imaginable isolation, losing your child in a terrible tragedy, was overcome not by ignoring the pain, but by sharing it. In weeping together, they found solidarity, they found connection, they found a profound meaning. They turned an empty void into a sacred space.
So what's the bottom line here? It's that our obsession with dodging pain is actually making us more fragile and alone. It's that the only real way to deal with trauma is to give it a story. And maybe most importantly, true healing doesn't come from avoiding sorrow, but from sharing it with each other. Confronting pain isn't about dwelling on the bad stuff, it's about building resilience and deep connection.
At the end of the day, that is the choice our society puts in front of us. Pain is going to happen. It's inevitable. So the question is, are we going to suffer alone, in silence? Or are we going to have the courage to find meaning together in a story?